Thank you for inviting me. Hello, everybody. I'm going to present Element, which is a building about movement and the ethereal, I call it. It's an office building in Marousi, 14,000 square meters. It finished in 2022. It was lucky. It got quite a lot of awards, and it was also nominated for the Miss Van der Rohe Award. Starting Element, I wanted the building to open up to the square and to open up to the view. And I have this fascination with the notion of the ethereal, and I wanted it to be ethereal. And that was transformed into kind of slabs, concrete slabs that change from one floor to the other with pointed sharp corners. And they create kind of what I call a choreography. This is the plot. And Element is getting its name, I must say. You might have seen that it has an L, capital L. It takes its name from this capital L because the shape is like an L. And Element is about movement and poetic intentions and materiality and spatiality and nature work together to this end. This is the first model, a very, primitive model. And this is the finished building. And, well, the truth is that the plot was really challenging because in the middle of our plot, we had another building, another property. That's why we had to create an L. And the big issue was how we could make our entrance evident. So we emptied the ground floor. We created a diagonal passage. We paid emphasis to create a square and a garden. And we took nature together with us. Nature was the main element of the building. Some of the images. If I'm going too fast, please tell me. The ground floor with all the garden. And it has just the ground floor, 4 floors, and 2 stories for the parking, the underground parking. It's a very simple and straightforward internal organization. It has a connecting lobby. And the whole idea, because this is a developer's building for tenants, the idea was to be very flexible for different tenants. The typical floor. And we have planted roofs on the 1st and the 4th floor. I forgot to tell you that Element is a platinum LEED building. It has the highest accreditation for sustainability. So this is the 1st floor. And some of the early images, when we planted, now if you go and see it, it's like a jungle. It's a proper garden. And on the 4th floor. And if you look at it from top, and also you can see the building that is like entering our own plot. Well, there is also on the ground floor a restaurant that is projecting. And it's a soft curved glass pavilion with a dynamic pergola, but made out of concrete, a canopy. We used a reflective ceiling to double the height of the ground floor and invigorate it also with surfaces of water. I don't know if you can see how low this is, and this doubling I call with all the reflections. And our architectural intention was for a building that talks about the ethereal. And this is expressed through the composition of these concrete slabs that change from one floor to the other with a very sharp corners, and also the concave geometricity. Movement, which I said was from the beginning the story of element, can be seen as real, expressed by the moving of the pierced aluminum louvers that cover the whole facade, apart from the north one. Or in the light breeze that invigorates the plants that cover roof gardens and the garden on the ground floor. But it can be also seen as an architectural gesture, metaphorically, as phenomenal, poetic. I'm using phenomenal, the term used by Colin Rowe. And in this sense, these concrete slabs projecting and turning and the sharp corners orchestrate a choreography. Or on the reflections of the ceiling, on this material that we use not only on this open-air covered space, but we use also on the interior. So we chose some simple materials, simple architectural gestures, like fair-faced concrete with a lot of white cement, anodized pierced aluminum louvers, the semi-transparent second skin for a double height area we have on the ground floor, the semi-glossy aluminum on the ceiling and the lobby wall, and I hope they create an elegant atmosphere. I want to say something more. For me, movement is part of time. I'm very interested in time. And in this situation, in other buildings, for example, in Agemar, I worked with the continuity and with flow. In this case, I work with discontinuity and incidence. So all the sharp corners, all the changes on the geometry, on the concave geometry, there are incidents, different incidents that create discontinuities, and also the whole understanding of nature with the change, with the change of the seasons, with the light breeze, and also the whole building movement in terms of as if we have breeze that generates this kind of movement and change. And I think things like that are all incidents of time, incidents that hold together the notion of time. Thank you very much. I just have to show this last image of the whole group, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Rena.
I'll give it to you.
Let's change programs now and continue with Iliana, who's going to present a hotel. It clicks alone.
Okay.
Do you want to sit here?
Back. Sorry. Can it go back? One. Yes. Okay. All right. So, thank you also for me. I'm Iliana Kerestetzi from Old Architects. I would like to thank a lot Christele, of course, and ArchDaily in general for its role in supporting us and promoting architecture. For us, this support is really valuable. ArchDaily has given us an opportunity to be visible in a much larger audience. We have 2 million viewers in our project, which is something really big for us. So thank you for that. I would like to say some words about us, if I may. So we mainly work, design residential projects and hotels. and we mostly work in rural areas in Greece, a lot on the Greek islands. And what we believe that characterizes our work in general is one unique bond that we think our buildings have with each specific location. So every time we have a brief, of course, from our client, but always we have this second brief that is dictated from another client, which is the place itself. And this one is even more demanding and more sensitive and more complex. Sometimes we're even called to design in very almost virgin landscapes, and we understand probably there's not a need for a building even there, but so this is a heavy load for us to start with, but also it's a big opportunity to be able to explore those places and to dive into these fantastic worlds that they offer us and those ideas that we can use. We don't want to use and impose our concepts. We try to extract the concepts from the place itself, and it doesn't have to need a very sophisticated idea or something breaking through. It can be something really plain, but something meaningful and something that will help us realize and execute the brief in the simplest way possible. So, in the case of 𝗠ጽη᷆, which is a boutique hotel on Serifos Island, here the brief was a feature that really determines this island's cultural identity. And those are the mines. Serifos is a very poor island of the Cyclades, really poor, but it had a rich subsoil in iron deposits, and this led to an extensive mining activity from the antiquity until the mid-60s, when the mines closed. And for the locals, the history of the mines is a very sensitive subject, because from one hand it gave prosperity to the island for years, but also it had tortured the local workers there because of the horrible conditions. And this led also to a very historic strike on the island, a violent strike. So it's a very sensitive matter. And all over the island, you can see these traces of the mines, that they are scattered everywhere, like bridges, these holes from the excavations, and all those remnants signify a second level of habitation which took place underground, where practically all the miners lived their lives from dusk till dawn. So what was our intention with 𝗠ጽη᷆ was the acknowledgement of those remnants and the history, and an idea to revive a housing scenario below the ground surface. And to do that, how we started to explore this concept, first of all, we observed the traces, and we mapped them down according to their geometry in categories. And then we created a kind of vocabulary, which later on we used in the composition. So we identified three basic elements: the point, the line, and the plane. The points were holes, room-sized holes on the ground surface, which were the entrances to the galleries, and the only source of light also in this huge network. Then we observe these lines, these sharp angled lines, which were created from the railway tracks of the wagons and stone paths. And these lines are like, they are introduced in the landscape in a very emblematic way, like very sharply. And the third element are the planes. Those are horizontal surfaces, large surfaces, where the cargo was collected in order to be distributed afterwards for shipment. All the traces together on a cove next to our plot in 𝗦𝗽𝗀 in Serifos. And now how we translated this into the new design. First, we drew this pair of angled lines, sharp lines, similar to the lines of the mines, which created two surfaces, below which we placed all the rooms of the hotel. And after that, we extracted orthogonal masses from those surfaces. Those are the points. And we created atrium spaces in order to introduce the light and to facilitate the airflow into the spaces. So this is an aerial view from the complex. You can see also an analogy with the scale of our voids to the neighboring dwellings. This is the roof. The entrances are, for the three residents, are also from this roof, signifying this entrance to this new level of habitation, the underground one, where gradually, of course, the views are revealed. With this kind of composition, we created, let's say, a variety, sequence of outdoor spaces, open-air spaces, between the rooms, which are of different, some of them more introverts, some of them more open to the sea views. This is a detail from the roof with the holes, voids. This is the facade. It is kind of monolithic. We wanted to emphasize again the concept of sculpting and subtracting masses from the earth. And to do that, we wanted to use one single material as a coating for the whole structure. And this was a mortar with an earthen pigment. So this canvas, this plain canvas, is enriched with shadows that constantly change, with natural elements like the rocks, the plantation, of course, and water features, each one for every residence. And all those elements, they embrace the composition like smoothly and try to assimilate it with the surrounding. This is a detail of a pool. And a detail of how the concrete slab meets the earth. In the interior, we wanted to do something really simple and modest. They are very small units of 60 square meters with a small living area and 2 bedrooms each. This is a 1 bedroom. And 1 bedroom with a patio with its private courtyard, which introduces light inside, and some night aspects of the roof. And that's it.
Thank you, Iliana. We'll go to Patricia. I want to mention that one of the area views of your project is one of the most viewed pictures on ArchDaily for the past year. So
Okay, thank you very much.
let's continue now with Patricia, architect and design leader at Block 722, who's going to present a residential project. So we're switching also programs now.
Okay. First of all, thank you for the invitation. I'm very excited to be here and present you 𝗦𝗲𝗿𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗍𝗍𝗍. It's a summer residence of 250 square meters located in the island of Syros. And this is a very special project for us because it represents a thoughtful, let's say, collaboration between Block 72 architectural language, the natural environment, and of course, the user, because all starts with an email or a phone call. So the project began with a German family of 4 seeking a summer house. They love Greece, they love Cycladic Islands, but they never lived in them because they always traveled in Greece with their sailboat. So they didn't have any reference on how their summer residence would like to be. And the only thing that said to us is how they are so fascinating with the architecture of the traditional Cycladic village. So we worked together to find a site, to find an island, and make their dream come true. So we looked in many islands, but then we found the perfect plot in the island of Syros. It is a steep hillside in the southern part of Syros, and it is very close to a lighthouse called 𝗦𝗲𝗿𝗁𝗁𝗁𝗍𝗍𝗍. The terrain is characterized by it's a rocky terrain, and the main point is this panoramic view to the Aegean Sea. The client bought a very big area, and we kind of worked together to find the perfect spot for his house. So we spent a lot of time there, and we walked together, and we find this spot. It's a very good spot because it has a very good orientation to the south and the west, and he has this steep slope, so we could work on that. It also have this private bit where it was very useful for him because he could reach the plot with his sailboat. So the land and the user informed our architectural synthesis. As we worked together in the plot, we thought that it would be fascinating if we can combine the charm of a Greek village with a modern design, because this was the only reference we had from the client. Sorry. So at first we had to work with the landscape. It's a very steep hillside, so we allow it to guide our design. So we kind of layer across different levels. We spread more small volumes into the plot to create this complex. The use of material was very important for us. We used local stone, traditional plaster, and wood. It was carefully selected to integrate as much as we can as possible to the land. So as we started creating the first layout, we know that we had to make it like you are walking on a Greek Cycladic village. So we created low orthogonal volumes that spread across the plots, creating a network, and we have those 2 axes that are our main corridors or pathways that give us a direction to the movement towards the mountain and towards the main outdoor area, 25 meters infinity pool, which frames all the panoramic view to the Aegean Sea. In that way, because we layered the buildings across many levels, we maximize also the views. So in every spot of the plot, you have an excellent view to the sea. Here we can see the use of materiality and how, in combination with the green roofs, help us integrate as much as we can to the landscape. This is the main house. It combined on the living and dining area, the kitchen, and on the other side of the entrance we have the master suite and an additional bedroom at the upper floor. We try to have as bigger openings as we can to allow the connection of the inner spaces to the outdoors. And of course frame the view and allow the natural light and the air to flow into the house. Here's the upper floor, which has a great view to the sea. And as you enter the plot, there is this sense of discovery from the very first moment you move into the house, with different views and let's say dramatic views to the mountain, and then when you turn to go to the main house, you can see this big door and the openings through the Aegean Sea. For the interiors, we used natural materials such as marble, traditional plaster, and timber. We want the interior to be as modest as it can and as simple as it can, because we need to focus on the views and we don't want to disturb us anything. So the textures and the finishes are on nuded palettes, which is something that you don't want to see this, but you're focusing on the view. Every element, from the joineries to bigger elements, are very carefully curated. We work a lot with local technicians, like these shutters, they are custom and let the light flow into the house in a very you can control the way the light flows into the house and, of course, the air. And in the exterior, we used, again, the same materiality to gain this connection to from the indoor space to the outdoor. And, of course, the water element that kind of bring the water element closer to the house and gives us this feeling that the residence is almost floating to the sea. Here we have the two large stone volumes of the house. The first one is the additional bedroom, the upper floor, and a part of the main house. And the other one is the southern guest house. While the main house has the opportunity to enjoy all the view in the sea, we can see from the picture that the south guest house, it's impossible to have openings to the sea because there's an obstacle. So we try to find a way to make it more interesting. So we turn the openings to the square. And in that way, we tried to create something more introverted, let's say, and different qualities of space. Here's the openings of the square guest house. This is in the main house, the additional bedroom on the floor. It feels like you're in a boat. You don't have anything to distract. You have only the sea view. And this is the square, and as you can see, we try to have a dialogue with the hill that we have on the background, with the stone wall. And this is the square. This acts as the heart of the house. It is a very protected area, living room, living outdoor area. And we have the garden of the house.
Thank you, Patricia. I have to interrupt you because we are over time with 2 minutes.
2 minutes? Okay.
No, we're over the time with already 2 minutes. We're at 10 minutes.
Okay, sorry. So can I have a conclusion?
Yes, go for it.
Okay, so, all right. This is the view from the subterranean North Guest House. And in conclusion, I just wanted to say that this is not just a residence. To us, it's a special narrative and a threshold between the traditional and the modern, the simplicity and the mountain and the sea. It took 5 years to complete it, and we're very, very proud of it. Thank you very much, and sorry.
Thank you so much. I'm going to be more strict in the next ones. Please, 8 minutes, let's respect that. So let's continue with Konstantinos, Principal Architect at KLAB, who's going to present, how do you pronounce it? Aloof houses?
Aloof houses, yeah.
Yes, let's go for it.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting us. The relationship KLAB to ArchDaily has a long history. This is not mine.
No.
No. Yeah, we have been working with ArchDaily. We are publishing projects to ArchDaily from 2008. So my time hasn't started, so I can blah,
yes.
blah, blah. So I remember that David Basulto, the founder of ArchDaily, called us, we want this project from you guys. And I kind of understand now that it was these times that ArchDaily was calling us to give projects, that we are, we want the projects to be published. Anyway, so Aloof Houses is a πολυκατοικία, an apartment building in Voula. I didn't know what aloof meant, but I was trying to find a name for the building. So I ended up with this urban dictionary that says aloof means at a distance, incredibly slick, laid back, but totally badass. So I really like that, the title. Actually, that at a distance is explaining a lot about the building, and it was in COVID time. So at a distance meant something as well. So the plot is in Voula, is a corner plot with a northeast orientation. At the west, which is the sea view, there was a single house that afterwards, the evolution of the plot is this one. Afterwards, a big apartment building was built there. And on the south, we had a building that it was stopped, the construction was stopped because of the economic crisis. And then again, it was finished after us. So the south was covered, and we had to deal with this problem. So what did the client want? So they wanted 3 equal apartments. It was a family apartment building for the couple and for the 2 grown-up kids. How you can do 3 equal apartments in an apartment building? A problem. They wanted one strong idea, a very simple one. And then, they told me, it's a family apartment building, but, you never know. We can think of selling it. So we had to work on that as well. So before that, KLAB has done a couple of apartment buildings in the center of Athens. The left one is in Pagrati, which we did that in 2009, and then it was completed in 2011. And then the urban stripes in 𝗠𝗚𝗍𝗁𝗍, and that was, both of them finished during the economic crisis. So the left one was sold to many people before the crisis, but the right one, they couldn't sell anything, so they changed it to Airbnb kind of apartments. So it goes really well. It was really good for the client. So the Aloof houses, the idea was we have 3 single houses, and we want to put them on top of each other. How will we do that? As you see, the roof touches the other one, the other house, in one spot. And this is what we try to do, is minimize the attaching volume to the other apartment. How we would do that? Creating some void spaces, some double heights, some void spaces that we fill with gardens. So what makes a single house a villa for us? Okay, this was like a research. So a villa is detached in a distance with the adjacent buildings or neighbors. We can have atrium, gardens, patio, verandas, balconies. Actually, the single house, the outdoor space is as important as the indoor space. It has, usually has the garden, so this is the important thing. What makes an apartment building? When I'm talking more about the suburban apartment building, so built on a vertical manner, there is a typical floor, and each flat is attached to the other. And the outdoor spaces are usually just the balconies. So we wanted to change that, and we wanted to do a kind of new hybrid building between a villa and an apartment building. So we minimized the volumes that were attached to the next flat. So, and we did that by inserting a small middle floor each time, which produced a void space, especially combined with the atrium. So these are the 3 villas on top of each other. You cannot understand now the voids, but there are a lot of voids and a lot of gardens. I think in the section you can understand that there is kind of open space in between the floors. So what we did then is kind of getting NOC, the new regulations, building regulations, and we tried to find what we could do with that. Actually, the new regulations started in 2012, but because of the economic crisis, the architects couldn't play with it. So what we got is that there is, in the new regulations, there was some kind of the open space that goes through the building doesn't count to anything, which was great. I mean, that was unique. Before it was called imipethrios. So we did, with this building, we did some other experiments. We did, this was our second metallic building, but this was a very complicated, I mean, a simple idea, but very complicated building. So with the metal structure, this is not that easy. We used seismic isolation bearings. So the client wanted, when there was an earthquake, he wanted to go inside the building, not go outside. So we used that. I think that was the first, after private building, that was the first one that we used that. I think Yiorgos was using that as well, the cultural center. We used photovoltaics on the pergola and no shutters at all. It's just glasses. I mean, the walls actually were only weird, but yeah, on the south. So the metal structure was very complicated, and that took us, a while to design it. And we're really proud that, the process of the evolution of the design, the renders, and the real building, they're almost identical. And what I'm saying is that usually our buildings look better in reality than in renders, rather in the pictures. So this is the second apartment with the swimming pool. All of them, they had swimming pools. The swimming pools, we use them as a sculptural item. I always say to my to the office, it's like, okay, when you have a problem, this is an opportunity. So this is the building. I think you can now understand the voids and the gardens. I mean, all these are gardens here. So what we did in this building is that the outdoor space, it is either gardens or balconies or atrium or whatever, name it. It's almost equal, maybe more than the indoor space. And for me, this is a non-typical apartment building. And for me, that was the breakthrough that we did in this building.
Thank you, Konstantinos.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for presenting kind of a new typology. And let's continue now with Yiorgos, co-founder at React Architects, who's going to present Triangle House.
Yeah.
Ready?
Can I have the notes here?
Yes, of course. I think you can have them here, right?
Because they're...
Let's see.
No, the notes. But
Do you want to stand here?
Yeah, to have the screen here, so I can see it.
Can we have the notes in the middle screen?
Περνάει ο χρόνος, περνάει.
No. Okay, let's switch. You can have my place.
Okay, no, I don't...
You can see the notes there.
Yeah, okay. Okay, good evening. And thank you for inviting us, ArchDaily and ArchitectScripta, to share our work.
Yiorgos, I just need you to raise your mic so we can hear you and raise your voice.
Here?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. To share our work and our thoughts upon architecture in Kyklades and especially in Paros. Paros, the recent years, and especially Kyklades, has been our homeland, a place where has inspired us through the landscape stories and traditions. Our journey has been one of exploration. We delved into the local architecture and engaged ourselves in its profound history. We consider the place as a case study. Each of the progresses becomes like a case study where we work on the ideas of the land. So in our recent years, we were fortunate to collaborate with Aurelio Galfetti and witness the work of 𝗦𝗽𝗲𝗻𝗀 from the Ticino School, whose approach on architecture has been different from what we have witnessed so far, because that's the early 90s from the local architecture or the architects coming into Paros. So they were crafting spaces for the essence of the human existence, and also to adapt and adjust the landscape. So the architecture was not like per se the quest. So Kyklades, as you all know, has a distinct architecture, timeless, functional, and deeply integrated into nature. And also for that has become the cornerstone of the modern architectural thought through the 𝗪4 and the presence of Le Corbusier himself in Greece and the Patrice travel around the Aegean. Our goal is to shape spaces and enhance habitation without compromising the island identity. We're designing a vacation home, we think about symbiosis with local people, with local techniques. Topos, where you see the barren rock in the middle of the Aegean Sea, and then the heterogeneity, the different layers of history that combine in making these islands unique. So we aim to create connections with people and also with the environment. So our work and our intervention is gentle and purposeful. So let's go to this case study, as we call it, the triangle. It's to the east of the island, looking at the mountains Naxos, where we again do design a variation of an enclosed wall with white forms inside. But here we have also historical contemplation in mind, which is the following: the frictorias. The frictorias were the signal stations that they were transmitting signals through the islands to the Asia Minor. So we were inspired by these enclosed shape buildings, and also that one of the frictorias was very close to the triangle, the building that we're showing today. So following this idea of the enclosed layout of signal stations, the race is situated on a foot of a hill, not on a hill, and it's oriented towards the southeast to maximize the light and protect the building from the north winds that prevail. So we consider the building as a beacon, that the signals on the architecture that we experience today. The plot is triangular, which is often a hindrance because that creates acute angles. But in contrast, we use this hindrance as an advantage on the design, creating open views, and at the same time creating these small terraces, courtyards in between the stone walls. We use the elements of the local tradition to create a sort of bioclimatic architecture and leaving the minimal footprint. Here you see on the north, the building is almost in cave, and the one on the bottom is our project. And even though it's oriented towards the view, the residence has an internal tranquility inspired by the Cycladic monasteries. The large volume of the building is fragmented in smaller ones. In this way, the adaptation on the landscape is harmonious, and the volume of the residence is significantly minimized, so to speak. The entrance is on the northwest side and is marked by the stepping stones that you see. And on this axis, we have, together with the olive tree, defined the central axis of the residence, and the residence develops on the south left side of the slide, which is the bedrooms and the hosting areas, and on the right side, which is basically the living room. You see the white, the stone ribbon that goes around, and then the whitewashed volumes in between. The paved spaces intertwine in the volumes, making a maze-like network system. We have given attention to the formal language to coexist with the building, so there were very minimal interventions in terms of formal vocabulary. Besides the stone walls, we have the concrete floors and the white plastered volumes, and everything is kind of minimal in the intervention as it is in the area and in the presence. We avoided any decorative additions, as you can see. The pergola follows and emphasizes the idea of the building, and all serve to underline the archetypal form of the residence. A landscape architecture is incorporated in the project, covering most of the land with endemic vegetation. Why use local stones? Building with traditional materials and techniques will create an architecture that exists symbiotically with the landscape, leaving behind a legacy for the land and the stories. The ruins scattered amongst the Hellenic region embody continuity, hold memory and history, eventually dissolving back in the land. All of us, we build ruins, and thus we coexist with the land. Tourism rapid expansion, as you know, has reshaped the Cyclades. How can architects respond to this challenge? By projects like the Eastern Triangle, which is a small project, we try to offer an alternative, creating spaces that coexist, not dominate, leaving a lasting imprint. Our work is to redefine habitation by forging a meaningful connection with the landscape. At the heart of our philosophy in designing these case studies that we talk about, is a commitment to create relationships with people and also the land and the construction itself. Through this symbiotic approach, we craft spaces that endure in their beauty and revelries. This place continues always to inspire us and challenge us to think, create, and honor its timeless spirit, hopefully. Thank you for attending, and I would like to thank also Andreas Androakakis and Adriana Zanavara for taking part in the design, and Yannis Vagias, who is also here, who is our collaborator for many years in designing, in crafting and constructing these buildings on site. Thank you.
Thank you, Yiorgos. Let's continue. Last but not least, for today and for the sessions, Nefeli, who's going to present the Butterfly residential building.
Hello, it's an honor for me to be here today among valuable colleagues and Christele, Harrouk as a moderator. Many thanks to ArchDaily and the Architect Show. So I'm here to speak about the Butterfly project, which is basically a moment of urban allusion within the fabric of the city. It's located in a typical neighborhood of Athens, and it's a 5-story building of 9 apartments. It does operate as an autonomous form, and this means that it's trying to redefine its context. It's trying to reinvent the character of the neighborhood, and it does already operate as a reference in the broader area. Light has been a design tool for us, so all these lines are tracing the formal behavior of the building throughout the wings at the end of the slabs, but also through the veil, which is the main core, the main structural skin of the building. Besides the contextual power of this urban object, what's really important is a strong narrative of dynamic views. There is a really intense relationship from inside out, and there are specific framed views in between the balconies of and the lines of the slabs, and also from the inside looking out through the voids of the vertical core, which we call the veil. So it's a project that reveals different innovative applications. First of all, in terms of advanced design techniques, we are using animation software, so time is a design tool throughout the design process. In parallel, there is an extended material research with a lot of experimental character also on site. Digital construction technologies that are mandatory since you follow this path of design techniques, but also there were many moments where all these advanced digital approach had to open a collaborative dialogue with conventional means of construction, because I have to say that this is a commercial project and it has been sold out since the concrete phase of the first slab. So we had to deal with very strict limitations in terms of budget and time. So the design is basically following a myopic formal exploration, which has interior rules, interior correlations of projects that they don't clearly relate at once. So that's why, as an object, it primarily looks like it does not belong to its surroundings, because it has this internal force of an autonomous urban object that kind of neglects the external forces of the site, although we used those external forces in order to generate constraints that allowed us to take decisions in the freedom of this digital journey that sometimes you don't know where to stop. So basically, this project is a topos. It's a new topo type. It's a topological object that reinvents the typology of housing. And the whole discussion was about how can you challenge existing housing typologies in architecture by using these tools. So when the formal exploration gives an answer in terms of typology, I think a more general discourse starts opening about the city and about the dialogue between the city and contemporary architectural thinking. So basically there are two innovative material applications. One is the part of the black wings that are developed at the edge of the slab, and they wrap around the building to connect and at the same time disconnect with the main core, which is the veil. It's the structural skin of this formal behavior that opens up to generate this fluid movement, which basically generates also the narrative of use. In terms of construction, it has been a really long journey for us and a big debate because we had these limitations and constraints that led us to discover how could you combine conservative means of construction, for example, the Calibra, which is an ancient tool of measuring these voids in between the singular repetition of the bricks, instead of actually using, by theory, a KUKA robot that could get the input, the data input from the design and demonstrate the construction automatically. So for us, it was really interesting how you can jump and combine digital technology with conservative, traditional means of construction. And I think that's a very big challenge also of how we start always designing in an animation software, which is three-dimensional, going back to 2D and 3D in order to reach the level to generate shop drawings and deal with all these difficulties and issues of digital construction, given the constraints that we have to follow. So we are trying to construct a new reality, and therefore there is a parallel project to the butterfly ending with AI, which is an NFT you can all buy at the OpenSea market. So the concept here is how can you use artificial intelligence tools, for example, the prompts that usually are being more indexical, and here we're using words like the candy, like garters, fluorescent lighting, black reflections, strings, objects in a certain flat ontology that they connect indirectly. And this indirect relationship of objects is a way to gain access to realism or to reality, because the only way to reach reality is an indirect way. So by connecting objects, words, meanings that primarily look very different, but there is a thread behind that in the concept of allusion And this is the main theme of my PhD thesis, currently working on 9 paintings of Francis Bacon about how you can construct this new realism of Francis Bacon and a new reality through allusion. So it has been a project that we have loved and suffered with. And it doesn't stand alone as an autonomous project. It's a part of a series of fly buildings. This is the Onyx Fly, currently finishing again in another Athenian suburb. And our project in Elliniko is a 3,000 square meter housing project, debating here with Mr. Kanellopoulos on the columns. And I really need to thank all my team, because this wouldn't have been a reality if it wasn't for them. Nikos Papavasiliou, Damianos Chatziminas, Dionysis Fotakis, and Kostas Chatziminas. As you can hear, we're a family business and also friends and great colleagues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nefeli. So we have seen a lot of different typologies, a lot of different functions, programs, and also projects integrated in different contexts, in rural and urban contexts. Basically, I want to start with the audience and check if anyone has a question to start with. Anyone? While we wait for them to probably come up with some questions, I'm going to start with you, Rena, because you presented first, and ask you, how do you define your design approach, and what influences this mainly?
Well, I would say that I pay a lot of emphasis on what I call the compositional structure, the way of the relations and the architectural order that connects and deals with the project. And if you dig in each one of my projects, you will see that this is what holds the whole project together. I am very interested in light, and I'm very interested in spatiality. I think form is important as a boundary, and of course three-dimensional form, but form is not the primary. And so I think that each project needs an idea. Each project tells a story. This idea needs to be important and connect both the programmatic, both what it is around, and what is going to be done there. All the things like materiality, space, and uses, and atmospheres, and things like that should get connected and should get integrated through a kind of order. And I think this is what would underline all of my work.
Interesting. Iliana? So obviously you have a very bold signature in all of your projects, always talking about context and landscape. For you, how would you define your design approach?
How, sorry?
Would you define your design approach? What do you start with?
Yeah, I think I already analyzed a bit this approach. It's for us, it's a very simple yet complex situation. So definitely we try to feel something before starting that legalize us to do what we do, because what we live on the landscape will stay there, it's permanent. We feel very responsible about it. So we try to find a very simple idea that does not shout, that it's like very naturally born. And if this works, then the composition, the composition itself, it flows like very easily. Everything continues until the project is done. And sometimes, if the idea is not the correct one, what I mean correct, I mean that every place has limitations, every location, and it has some assets. So we try to take advantage of the assets, and we try to overcome those limitations. Simple as that. So we try to do what probably somebody who didn't even study architecture, we try to think in this kind of way. What have to do in a place that is that the wind is taking us apart? We have to make a shelter, let's say. Very easy ideas, not breaking through ideas, very, you know, just like that. And then, but sometimes, I wanted to say that sometimes we get lost in this process and we make it more complex, and then we lose the way and have to go back and sometimes say, okay, I will not get married with this idea, probably it doesn't work. We go from scratch again until we are sure that this is, you know, this is it. So everything is very different. The idea can be from the historical context. It can be from a detail in a local structure that we find. It doesn't have a rule. We stay a lot of time in the places that we are called to design, and we really study the place deeply. Like, I think also in this panel and in the previous panel, many of our colleagues try to do this thing. So
it's true. There's a lot of context and also a lot of influences from the landscape itself and the topography. And I think, Patricia, probably you also agree on that, right?
Yeah, of course. I think that for our studio Black 72, I think that we share a little bit the same
approach.
Approach, yes. For us, in every project, when we start, it's the land, not only the land, the topos, because topos, it's not just land formations, it's the impact of the people that live there, it's the culture, and all of this, it's a combination of very good references. And we always have to know where we build and what is behind this scene. And we have to study the place, we have to study the people and the culture, and we also have to add our identity, our studio identity, to make something contemporary and unique. I think that we really like the plots and the sites that are something like the one that I presented, because it has some challenges, and it's something, you build something there and you know that this belongs there and you cannot see it anywhere else in the world, let's say. And this is very important for us. We try to respect as much as we can the surroundings, and make something modest yet luxurious.
On that note, I would jump to Yiorgos before going to Konstantinos, because you mentioned coexisting in your presentation. So would that be the trigger behind your design approach? Coexisting. Do you want me to repeat?
I couldn't hear you very well.
Okay, so I was saying that you mentioned coexisting.
Mention?
I will.
Coexisting.
Coexisting.
I'm gonna go.
Coexistence.
Okay, so
Yeah, I couldn't hear you.
I'm here.
Yeah.
So I was saying
mentioned,
you mentioned coexisting in your design when you were presenting your project.
I can't see you. Because, so, talking about coexistence.
And tell me about your design approach also.
Okay. Basically, everybody talks about Cyclades at this point.
Yes.
You know, and and how we coexist with the tourism, the over-tourism, the overbuilding, and the over-demanding of profit. You know, that's the main theme. So it's how you coexist. You have a lot of things to coexist at the same time. You know, it's not just about Cyclades. I think it's for all the Mediterranean, because Mediterranean has a long history. It's about Spain, it's about Italy, about France, about all the coast, you know. So it's a big demand at the moment, not necessarily for housing. There's a big demand of getting a profit. Yeah. So the thing is that if somebody wanted to be honest, you know, talking about bioclimatic architecture, sustainability, and all these things, the coexistence and all that, is not to build. That's the answer to all that.
Should we build?
Nothing should be built, you know, because there's enough buildings already. So, but at the same time, we have the alternative, not the alternative. On the other hand, we have the developers, the investors, the ones that they want to live the dream, you know. So somehow we have to coexist with them, with the developer, with all these things. So in a way, this either sometimes we succeed, other sometimes we fail, okay? Or the thing is to be a little bit focused and try to be somehow ethical in this approach. But because we're going to build anyway, because people want to build, want to invest, want to have a place in this sacred land of Mediterranean, Aegean, Cyclades, Paros, and all that. So at least we have to do it in a proper way and coexist with that. So because I forgot that, besides us, which we are the architects and we are kind of translating what the developers or the owners or the clients want, is the local community. You know, because the local community at the same time has its demands. Okay, so we have to coexist with that. We cannot be intruders, because these guys, they live there. We are hosts, you know. We are hosted there, not us just. We're talking about all the actors, because you see, there's a lot of projects with the previous presentation, in this presentation, about the Cyclades. You know, Cyclades is the cornerstone of the Greek topos. This is this is what everybody talks about in the whole of the world. More people know Mykonos than Thessaloniki, okay? More people know Santorini than any other place in Greece, you know. So Parthenon, Mykonos, and Santorini are the cornerstones of the Greek brand. So if you want really to honor it and respect it, besides what we do, we shouldn't do anything. But
we need a job.
That's the case now. So at least you have to do it right in somehow. So that's what we are trying to do, to coexist and build something that has a grounding and an ethos.
Konstantinos, I'm moving back to you. Yeah. So you innovated in type of the typology that you created. So you started from a need from the client, right? So in that sense, how do you define your design, the design approach of your office?
Well, I mean, we were very lucky that this apartment building was a family building. Mm. And it wasn't a developer's building that you don't know the client, you don't know the user, the end user. And for us, I think it's very important to know the end user, to understand the demands, but and actually imagine their life inside your building. And this is what I think. This is what we do. When you have the plot, you have the neighborhood, and suddenly you start imagining how these people move around your building, how they will wake up in the morning, how they will have a dinner with their friends, you know, all this stuff. And, you know, for us it's very intriguing, all this, to have, but, you know, in a way, the stories that we hear from the clients now, they're very similar. They're very kind of flat. Because people, I think now they don't know how to live. You know, they work, they make money, they don't know how to live inside their houses. So we are kind of trying to interpret it or reimagine their lives for them without, you know, intruding to their personal life, but, you know, like giving them something that they would, when they're actually in their houses, they will feel that, you know, okay, now I feel really nice that I'm in my house, you know, and this is my house and this is how I dreamed of it. And usually they haven't dreamed about something like that, but when they are inside, they say, yeah, we are very much appreciate that. So this for us, I think this is the most important, to have you know, our clients really happy. We do it in our own way, you know, trying to innovate as much as possible, try to be in the context, to have a certain, you know, kind of strong idea. But at the end, it's the client, the end user, who is the most important. And we are proud to say that, you know, like, we have a lot of clients coming up, like 10 years afterwards, like 15 years afterwards, they say, you changed our lives, and this is great.
So you're talking about experience of space, right?
Yep.
And I think all of your projects are tackling different types of experiences of space, starting with Rena and office building, going on to like more residential things, or like more opening into, or working with the community also. Nefeli, for you, technology, is it a tool or is it the main trigger behind the design inspiration?
It certainly is a tool. And we actually don't operate like all the discussions we heard earlier through the site. We don't start with the location. I was taught to read about the history of the place before thinking about it, but I kind of left it somewhere because I think it's very intriguing to work with conceptual geometries and not only just concepts of ideas or stories or words. And I think there is a really important strength in developing abstract machines of conceptual geometries that can be applied to any site, any location, and they can follow any architectural program and any scale. So for us, what's really important is this concept of abstract geometry that can adapt to any abstract, any client or any request. That's the primary trigger that needs to use the technology in order to be able to develop this way of thinking and have results that you can apply and adapt in different situations. But of course, that's not what we all call architecture. This is a way to reach our dream, and that's about reinventing realities. We heard in the previous panel about form follows function, and that's a slogan that has been changing every 40 years from architects. And the latest one I have heard from Bernard Tsoumi, who was my professor also, it was form follows fiction. And this is something I have kept. I think it's all about the dream you have every time, which is an intuition that you cannot always explain. You cannot always find it in the history of the site or the location or all these great ideas that I have also followed. So I think it's more of an abstract approach that allows for many things to happen until the moment that you have to use these constraints of the site, of the location, of the client, of the budget, of the time limitation, and all these architectural constraints that allow you to take decisions, and they kind of frame this endless freedom that the technology allows for you to flirt with. So.
Rena, do you have any comment about this?
I have a comment on that, yes. I was thinking while you were talking that each one of us showed floor plans, and yes, you were right. The main issue was always space, either in connection to the context or in connection to what the users feel or do inside, but space was the primary issue. So my question, am I allowed to make a question? Okay, so my question is, I would really love to see your floor plans, and I would really like to know how these people move and live inside, because I have to my mind that sort of, well, I'll call it utopic architecture, because it's not the everyday architecture. But I would like to know whether utopic architecture is just a fancy dress that dresses something that is there and it's quite similar to everything else, or it really changes the experience of the person who uses this inside. This is my question.
You're right. It's a very easy way to read projects that are based on formal exploration, and this happens a lot of seeing a daily pornography of fancy dresses on all these websites of renderings and an exhibition of technique that anybody can read. But I believe there is a deeper meaning and a deeper exploration than that, which is what I mentioned through my presentation, which, by the way, it had many plans. I don't know if you noticed at the end. The great moment is when this formal exploration reinvents a typology. It reinvents a new way of moving through the space, and it starts provoking cliché housing typologies of architectural thinking. So that's the goal, to not discuss about a funny dress, but to discover and reinvent those housing typologies or any type of architectural typology. So when a topos, an object which is a topos, is a topological exploration, reaches the moment to discover a certain or invent a typology. You don't need to discover a new typology. I think that's the bet, and it's the turning point where it's not anymore about the fancy dress.
Okay.
Well,
you can also speak with people living inside. I do
I
that a lot,
that.
and we take a lot of feedback.
It just triggered this question in my mind. I would like to understand what changes, because yes, the exterior is what it is. It's very different.
No, you are
and
absolutely
really
right.
like
I mean, what changes is the actual structure of separating spaces.
Yes.
For example, on the upper floor of the butterfly, it's not more about one or two apartments. It's more of a really long corridor that is developing behind the veil, and it's kind of stretching the way you live. So you really have to walk through a really long passerelle from the space that you sleep and you rest, and you have to really go through this catharsis of space, which is really narrow and has a certain lighting there to reach the public parts of the house, of the apartment. So this, the formal exploration has given us different typologies, different plans, different CAD plans, I would say, because the plan is also about a CAD. It's not just to generate how the space is organized. And I think that's the bet. It's really important what you're saying, because if the form doesn't answer to the typology, then it is about a fancy dress, and that's not the goal. So for us, it's also a really long journey to discover that, and it's not easy. It's not easy to reach the level of holding the technique, of applying the technique, and discovering a different typology. It doesn't matter if it's a circle or a square. It's a way of thinking that allows you to make these discoveries. But it's a very difficult game.
Thank you, Nefeli. Let's just check with the audience one last time if anyone has a question for any of our guests. I guess not. On that note, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for your presentations, and thank you for sharing your insights.
Thank you. Thank you.